Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This is my team selection for game week 9. I've got a few issues in my team. I've got 3 free transfers and I plan to use them. So let's get straight into it. Okay, we'll have a brief look at my game week 8 team. We looked at it in the transfer plans video at the weekend, so I won't spend too long on it. Apologies if I sound a bit weird. I do have a bit of a cold, but Mukiele, 17 points. Any excuse to talk about this guy again. He's a beast. We love him. Gabriel, 12 points. Raya, 6 points. Bruno, 8 points, and nobody doing a lot else apart from Haaland. I obviously had Dubravka on the bench. I was never really considering playing him over Raya, so I'm not too annoyed about that. Foden's the annoying one because he actually played really well. I watched the game against Everton, and he was brilliant. I am a bit annoyed that he didn't get any points, but anyway, that's enough about the game week 8 team. So on to game week 9. I've got 0.3 million. I've got 3 free transfers. And at the end, we'll talk about how I'm thinking about using those because I do have a few issues. Now, the issues that I have are not in the goalkeeper position. So, Raya, absolutely fine. He's got Crystal Palace at home. Not the best fixture. Crystal Palace are very good in attack, but the Arsenal defence, we just know how elite that defence is. So good. I do have Dubravka with Wolves away on the bench. Wolves do look like a pretty terrible attack right now. So, there is a world where I could play Dubravka. I just don't think I'm going to do it. I actually can't really think of many situations where I wouldn't play Raya. Even if it was like Liverpool and then Dubravka had Leeds at home, similar to last week, I guess. Maybe that is a situation where I'd do it. There isn't many teams that Raya could be playing that would make me bench Raya and play Dubravka. I won't be doing it this week. Onto the defenders. This is where I've got one of the problems. So, as you can see, Senesi has Nottingham Forest at home. Really good fixture. Sean Dyche has now come in, so I do expect Nottingham Forest to improve. I'd more expect them to improve defensively first. Having said that, they weren't bad going forward in the first half against Chelsea. They just didn't take their chances. Even so, I don't think Dyche will have made enough of an impact to impact this fixture. I'm absolutely fine with Senesi this week. Gabriel has Crystal Palace at home. He just seems close to essential at the moment. Not least because he's playing for the best defence in the league. But also his attacking returns. He is getting so many of them. Even we saw in the Champions League as well. There's just no reason to ever bench him. I've been burnt before last season, the season before, where I've benched him for bad fixtures and he's just gone and scored in them fixtures. So won't be doing that again. Hold me accountable if I even mention it in a team selection video. Then this is where we've got a problem. So Anderson went off with a hamstring injury in the game against Arsenal in game week 8. Making it a bit of an issue because I was kind of fine with playing him this week, and then obviously from game week 10 onwards he has great fixtures. He's got Wolves next week, but he did go off with a hamstring injury, which means that I do have a problem. However, you'll see when I come to my transfer plan section, and I've shown a couple of weeks in advance as well, or this week and next week at least. I have looked a few more weeks in advance than that as well. Apart from this week, I can actually get by without Anderson, without that spot. All 4 of my other defenders, Gabriel, Senesi, Richards, Mukiele, I can put together a good back 3 with those guys. There was worlds where I was going to play 4 at the back with Anderson, but I can't do that anymore. Unless he isn't out for long, of course. We don't know how serious the hamstring is. It didn't seem like it was great. I am expecting him to be out until at least after the next international break. We will get news on that soon anyway. But yeah, I have worked it out and I don't actually think I need that spot. So if I don't want to use a free transfer on it, then I can just leave him on the bench every week. The only problem is this week. So this week is the worst because I have to play either Richards with Arsenal away or Mukiele with Chelsea away. Obviously both of those are pretty bad, and actually I've got attackers from both of those teams, from Chelsea, from Arsenal. So yeah, it really isn't ideal having to play one of them, but outside of this week it's fine. I would play Mukiele if I was playing one of them. There is a transfer option where I could sell Anderson to Reece James actually, which is a funny one, but yeah, I don't think I'll do that just because whilst Reece James's minutes are good for the next few. I did actually have a look at the next few weeks and it looks like Reece James's minutes will be good for this game, for the Tottenham game, for the Wolves game. After that next international break, it's a bit more difficult because there's a Champions League game against Barcelona. And up until that international break, he doesn't need to play midweek because it's an EFL Cup game, which he probably won't play in. Then the Champions League game is against Qarabag, which he probably won't play in. It's then after the international break that it's Barcelona. So he may be wanted for that midweek game, which could mean that his Premier League minutes are compromised. Up until that point, he's fine. I just probably won't go there because he is a very short-term move in that sense. Onto the midfielders now, and this is where I've got more issues. So Stack is on the bench here with West Ham at home. This is maybe one fixture that I would have been thinking about playing him in, but I just don't really think he's an option anymore. He's not having the same impact that he was at the start of the season. His minutes aren't as good as well. He's getting some early subs. He's just not getting the DEFCON that he was either. I don't really think he's a playable option at this point. Antoine Semenyo, obviously absolutely fine with him. Fantastic fixture. The fixtures get a little bit worse after this week, but they do get better again from game week 13 onwards, I think it is. I'm fine with keeping him. There's no point in selling him to bring him back. So much value tied up in him, obviously. And this week's fixture is fantastic. Obviously, I mentioned Sean Dyche has come in for Forest. Like I say, he probably won't have had time to have made an impact on that defence yet. So I still think this is a really good fixture. Then we've got Bruno Fernandes with Brighton at home. Just fine keeping him now. He is expensive for what he is. I've said that in a few videos, but he is just quite good. He will tick along with points. He could have got more points at the weekend as well. He hit the post. I just have no plans to sell him at the moment. Then we've got Foden and Reinders. So this is where we need to talk about minutes a little bit. So they obviously both played at the weekend against Everton. Foden was fantastic. Reinders was pretty good as well. Reinders has been pretty good, I think. I don't think that his performances have been a problem. He came off quite early in the 59th minute. And a lot of people probably thought, myself included, that that was to give him a rest so that he could start in the Champions League. He then didn't start in the Champions League, which was slightly worrying. So Bernardo Silva and Rico Lewis, I think it was, started in the two midfield positions that Reinders and Foden played at the weekend. So this is causing a bit of an issue. They've got more players back now because Shirky's back. Whether Shirky plays in one of those central positions or he plays out on the right, who knows? But the one thing that I do think is that Reinders' minutes aren't particularly safe now going forward. He did come on in the Champions League. I think he got about 18 minutes. I didn't watch it, so I don't know how he played, but I don't think it was great. Bernardo Silva played 90 minutes. So whether Bernardo Silva plays back-to-back 90 or back-to-back starts and then starts this weekend, who knows? Foden didn't come on at all. Foden's minutes are something that I'm not worried about this weekend. I am pretty sure he will start just because he has been unbelievable. He was so good against Everton, and it did seem like a genuine rest midweek because he didn't come on at all. So I'm pretty sure he'll start. It's Reinders that I'm really, really not sure about. I do think that this week I will have to just chance it and play him though. I don't really have too many other options, as we'll see going forward. But these two players are players that I'm looking at selling soon, and you'll see that when we talk about my transfer plans. Anyway, onto the forwards. Haaland captain, obviously, don't need to discuss that one too much. João Pedro is one that I am a little bit worried about, albeit it does seem like he'll be playing in a better position now, probably in the number 10 position instead of a striker up there on his own. Obviously, I won't be selling him before this fixture though. I do want Mateta in the coming weeks, and he probably is a way to get to Mateta, but not this week. And then Gyökeres, I have thought about moving him to Saka and doing a double move. With 3 free transfers, I just don't think that's the best use of them, especially given that I want some more Palace players in, and I've potentially got Foden and Reinders issues, so I just don't think I'll be doing that. He bagged 2 goals in the Champions League. Don't get me wrong, they weren't like unbelievable from him or anything, but goals nevertheless. So I think I'm just fine with carrying him for now. Okay, and as I mentioned, I've got 3 free transfers, 0.3 million in the bank. So let's get now on to my transfer plans. So this screen shows you basically a couple of options. These are probably the 2 options I'm going to look at this week, and they're actually exactly the same. It's just when I do the moves. So Foden to Enzo this week, or roll, and then next week it's Reinders to Sarr and João Pedro to Mateta, or I could do all 3 of them next week. Now, the one thing to note here, obviously I'm selling Reinders instead of Stack. I don't ever plan to play Stack, whereas Reinders could become an option again. Now, the reason that I'm selling Reinders instead of Stack is because currently, if I was to put Stack in here instead of Reinders, I've got the exact funds to do these moves. And with players like Mateta, with players like João Pedro, with players like Enzo, I think that there will be price changes by the time I get to next week and come to do these moves. Now, what I could do is obviously if I think Enzo is going to go up. Now, none of these players, actually, I'm recording this on Thursday morning, and none of these players look like they're actually going to move in the next day or so. So I think I'll be able to get to the deadline, even if I didn't want to do any of them. But I would probably then have to move on Friday, so tomorrow, which I really don't like, given that there's a whole week. There's EFL Cup games in between. not ideal. But it is an option that I could go really early and do stack to Sar instead of Reinders. These moves, so the problem I've got with them is that Foden just seems fine for this week. Aston Villa aren't the worst defence, obviously. I think that Foden's minutes this week will just be completely fine. So there is a world where I could keep him because he's been absolutely brilliant. But Enzo Fernandez obviously has the better fixture. Now, there's issues with Enzo Fernandez though. And my thinking here is that he is absolutely great, obviously. He's got brilliant XG this season, not even just including a penalty. His XG is just really, really good. But we saw in the Champions League last night, so he started the game. He then came off at half-time. The game was pretty much won by half-time. It was either 3-1 or I think the score was around 3-1 at half-time. He came off at half-time. That to me says that he's just going to start at the weekend. Mark Gui, he came on at the weekend as well against Nottingham Forest, and Chelsea looked so much better when he came on and João Pedro went into the number 10 role. Now, he also started in the Champions League and came off at half-time, same as Enzo. He, I do believe, will start up front with João Pedro in the number 10. This means that it won't be Enzo playing in the number 10. He'll probably be playing in more of an 8 role. I'm guessing it will be Caicedo, Enzo, João Pedro with Mark Gui up top. I don't think this hampers Enzo in a drastic way, to be honest. I think that he still will play in a very attacking manner, especially given it's Sunderland at home. I'm not expecting Sunderland to have loads of the ball. It'll be more Chelsea on the ball, and he will be quite attacking. I don't really have a problem with that, but it's obviously still not the same as him playing as an out-and-out number 10. Now, the other thing as well is that we're assuming he's on penalties. He took the penalty in the Champions League last night. He then gave the second one to Esteval, and again, the game was pretty much won by that point. I think actually, it might have been 3-1, and then they won a penalty, and he gave it to Esteval to make it 4-1. It wasn't like a pressure penalty or anything, but again, this does worry me slightly. Even before that Champions League game where he handed a penalty to Esteval, I think there was a world where João Pedro might have taken the next penalty anyway. These two things, the positioning and the penalty situation, do slightly put me off Enzo, and they probably don't put me off enough to not get him. It's just whether I want to wait and get a little bit more information from that Sunderland game on where he plays, and maybe they do get a penalty and we get a bit more information on that. I would be missing out on one good fixture, but I don't think that Foden this week, knowing that he'll likely start, is that much worse than Enzo Fernandez this week. So I could wait until next week to do that move. The other moves, like I mentioned, João Pedro to Mateta, Reinders, or potentially stack, but probably Reinders to Sar. I like those moves. I want Triple Palace going forward, and I've got Chris Richards, so these two would be the ones I'd add to it. I'd obviously rather have Munoz, but that's not particularly possible for my team. Now, another option here, I've got 3 free transfers, obviously, so in total, between this week and next week, I've got 4, meaning that I could do Foden to Enzo, and then Anderson to Reece James, as I mentioned. That will get me another Chelsea player. That will get me triple Chelsea, actually, for this Sunderland at home game. And yes, you're all going to say Sunderland are a good defence. They are, but they're much better when they're at home. Away from home, they haven't been nearly as good this season. So I still think this fixture is absolutely brilliant. So I could sell Anderson and go to Reece James. The only problem is, like I mentioned earlier, I just think that Reece James is a bit of a short-term move. I'd get this Sunderland at home game. I'd get Tottenham, which seems like an okay game right now as well, and then I'd get Wolves, and then I'd be worried about minutes. I'd probably have to sell him. I don't know who I'd want by that point, maybe even just Anderson back if he's fit, to be honest. Or it would mean that I don't get Sar next week, and then I go straight to Munoz or something like that. Either way, I just don't think it's worth all the transfers. So these will likely be my moves. Let's look at how my team looks for this week. If I go with option 1, but obviously you'll know what it looks like if I go with option 2, because it will just be moving the transfer to next week. Right, so for game week 9, this is what it would look like. Obviously, Enzo is here instead of Foden. I'd have to play Mukiele with Chelsea away. It's not ideal, but that means that I keep Anderson, and that's how the team looks. Then if we go to game week 10, when I've done, as I mentioned, Mateta in for João Pedro and Sar in for Reinders. I could be stack, as I mentioned, but probably wouldn't be. So this is the week. There's not many weeks where I wouldn't play Gabriel and Senesi. This is one of the weeks where I wouldn't play Senesi. So I needed both of my defenders to be good. And as you can see, Anderson had Wolves at home. So my plan was play Anderson instead of Senesi, play Mukiele with Everton at home, or Richards with Brentford at home, and I'm all good. But Anderson is out. I don't want to play Senesi this week. So it would essentially involve playing Richards and Mukiele, which is actually fine, to be honest. Brentford at home is fine. Everton at home is also fine for Sunderland. One other thing that I did think about this week was obviously benching Semenyo because he's got City away, and I could have played 4 at the back if Anderson was fit, but I actually don't think I'd want to bench Semenyo anyway. The City defence doesn't look like Arsenal level or anything like that, so I think actually Semenyo is just fine to play. I've obviously got Bruno Fernandes of Nottingham Forest away, fine fixture. I've got Enzo of Tottenham away, fine fixture. And the forwards all have good fixtures as well. Gyökeres has Burnley away. Is Sunderland for him the week after as well? Obviously, I wouldn't be doing the Gyökeres to Saka move, but I still quite like Gyökeres as an option anyway. So this is what the team would look like in game week 10. Let me know what you think on my transfer plans. Let me know what you do in my situation. Make sure you're hitting like, make sure you're subscribing. Around 80% of you that watch these aren't subscribed, so make sure you subscribe, it really helps. And I will see you in the next one.